I was in and out of foster care.
How many placements?
16 plus, but that's only in North Carolina.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was in college. I did everything right, like they told me to. And because my foster mom at the time wasn't getting paid anymore, now I had to go live in my car. Be quiet about how you talk about these homeless people because, baby, it can be you, especially with things that are going on now. A lot of people are like, oh, not me. Yeah, Bookie, you. You know, look at you now. I didn't hear I love you at one point for like 7 years in a row. We know what it's like to have to muster up your own stuff at 13. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. The authenticity of the rawness still lives in me and it still is ever present. I think a lot of times we come into the place and we want to burn it down. And I love that. I love a good burn down. Let's burn it down.
I'm with you.
Let's figure out the process first so that we can figure out if burning it down is actually the right thing.
I wanted to be that one person who never had a podcast. Well, too late now. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of you because this podcast continues to grow. And I'm grateful for all the guests who, every one of them have changed me in some way. And today's guest is one of those people. She entered foster care at 2 years old. She bounced through 16 placements. Can you imagine that? She aged out of the system at 21, went to college, and found herself sleeping in her car, not because she gave up, but because the system did. And instead of letting that break her, she decided to fix it. Marcella Middleton is the CEO of Away Home America, a national nonprofit working to end and prevent youth homelessness. She's a policy advocate, a speaker, a leader, a fighter, and living proof that people closest to the pain are exactly the right people to lead the solution. This conversation is real, it's raw, and I promise you, it will shift something in you. Please watch and share.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Although our paths have crossed, this is the first time we've really had a conversation.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about you.
Okay. So I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. First entered foster care when I was about 2 years old. And I was in and out through age 21 when I aged out. I went to college, so, that's when I experienced homelessness for like the first time on my own.
Yeah.
I was living in a foster home and the lady was like, it's over for you. You can't stay here anymore because we're not getting money for you, so you gotta go. So I was couch surfing for a while and I was in my car for a lot of that time. And then going back just a tad, I was in and out of foster care, so I know my family. Yeah. I know all of them.
How many placements?
16 plus, but that's only in North Carolina. Because when you're a little kid, where I'm originally from in Colorado, when you're a little kid, everybody wants you. They hold on to you for a long time.
Okay.
But
as you start getting older?
Becoming a teenager, people are like, no. So I moved a lot.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of placements when you start talking to people who've gone through the foster care system is shocking to me.
Yeah.
I remember interviewing a girl in Denver,
yeah.
and she had said that she had 25 placements, I think it was, maybe even more. And I believed her, but I had to go fact check it.
Yeah.
And I talked to a social. Oh, yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's super normal to move around.
How do you have a normal childhood?
Yeah.
Especially in the development years if you're in a new placement all the time.
Yeah, honestly, you don't. You just learn how to cope with what you did have. And I think for me, I was involved with Say So, which stands for Strong Able Youth Speaking Out. It's an organization that's led by young people, and I was involved with it at 13. So it gave me that platform to, redirect like all of this passion and frustration and all of the things you have when you're going through a system and you have no, control. It helped me reroute that to be able to learn how to advocate for myself.
Yeah.
But not only just advocate for myself, I had the opportunity to like free myself from trauma because I was on stages like discussing things that if I was just sitting at home, I probably wouldn't touch. But now I'm in front of people and they're asking questions and they're showing a lot of care, concern, empathy. And I'm like, oh, okay, people do care, and so a lot of that just really built my resilience on top of what just, things that I went through. It helped me. So you don't ever like have a normal childhood, but as you grow up, you realize like, okay, I'm in the driver's seat and I've got to figure out how to, with what I have, just do the best that I can.
Yeah. I didn't mean to get us on a little rabbit trail, but I thought the placements are so important.
Yeah.
And you just gave us a little insight because people consider you a powerhouse when it comes to advocacy.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. Let's go on with your story.
So yeah, being in foster care, and then when I moved to North Carolina, which is where I live now, I moved a lot and I had several different social workers, but one social worker that I absolutely love so much, she's like a mother to me. She was one of those people that she didn't mind a challenge, and she was like, I got this little girl, I'm going to be here for her. And she was there for me. She did a lot of things that most social workers would be like, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to lose my job, like ensuring that, me and my sister we weren't just alone all the time. Yeah. She made sure she was with us and, for holidays and stuff like that, and just looked out for us outside of typical social work stuff. So she was very supportive. And I bring her up because when I did finally figure that I wanted to be different with my life, which people that know me know that when I was growing up, I fought a lot. I was in 10 different high schools.
You?
Yeah, me.
No,
you. Horrible. I tell people that when I was younger, I was kind of like Debo when I went into DSS. They're like, oh my gosh, here comes Marcella. Like, we don't want to deal with her. And it was rough, but she didn't care. She was like, I love this little girl and I got you. Like, and she didn't mind telling me about myself, which resonated with me because that's how my mom is with me. Like, she didn't mind being like, hey, cut it out. Like, you stop, and when my mom wasn't able to do that, my social worker didn't mind stepping into that place. So she helped me when I went to college, brought me there. And so I decided that I wanted to go to college. I was initially going to go to the military. And this other lady was like, look, I don't think you should do that. I think you should go to college. And I was like, let me just try it. The military will always be there. And so I went, and honestly, it was the best time of my life. I'm not going to lie. Like, I have a little bit of, what do they call it when I don't know, maybe I'm a has-been. I don't know. Because I love college so much and it was so long ago. I'm glad I made that decision because I didn't have to feel like I was an adult and I was parentified anymore. I was literally finally at my age and I was functioning developmentally where I needed to because I was in an environment that called for me to do that. So,
what did you study?
Social work.
Go figure.
Right. Yep, social work. And I wanted to be a therapist initially for young people in foster care, but my path just took me elsewhere. Yeah. So still love that, but I just went elsewhere. Advocacy, my big voice, going everywhere.
Right.
That was the thing. So
my background was television,
okay,
which you probably know.
Yeah.
And I was living in a homeless shelter for far too long.
Yeah.
And somebody told me about the state of California Department of Rehabilitation would pay for college, community college.
Yeah.
And so I think many people recovering from addiction think, I'm going to be a drug and alcohol counselor.
Yeah.
Right? So I majored in psychology with the goal of being a drug and alcohol counselor.
Yeah.
And minored in television because I thought I'd go crazy with all psychology. And I already knew the television stuff. So that was fun. And where I'm going with this is I learned a lot. I learned enough about psychology just to be dangerous. It helps me with my interviewing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't my path.
Yeah.
It was when it got to the point where I was interning and people even suggested, your counselors would say, that's not the path for you. But I had to go and do it because sometimes people recovering from addiction where they are in life don't make the best counselors.
Yeah.
And that's where I was.
Yeah. I can respect that. I think sometimes in this work, what I find is that those of us that lean into some of the peer-to-peer stuff is just not for us. Yeah. And I think it's honorable when someone can say, this is actually not for me. Yeah. I think, I don't know, as I've done this work, especially for as long as I have, I've leaned into it, and it felt like I was meant to do this, like, and on top of that, I got a lot of healing from it, to be real. I mean, just being like, my life was and is useful to the world because I'm helping young people realize their passions.
It's one of the reasons that I keep doing it, because I have this niche that I created of storytelling and messaging and video and news and journalism and all that.
Yeah.
And there's not the funding for it, not the support. The impact is there. We reached 200 million people last year.
Right.
It's kind of crazy, but the reason I keep doing it is I remember it was a bunch of years ago. I used to do road trips across the country, and I was so frustrated. I was just, there's no support, and then I got this feeling, this is your divine purpose.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this in a spooky
I know what
religious
you
faith
mean.
way.
Yeah.
It was like, this is your destiny.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
But you are the person. And you're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, that resonates with me so much because I felt that, and it was at 13. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. So it's like I'm so strong in what you mentioned in terms of your like divine calling, the things that you know are for you. So knowing that this has been for me and just doing it in different facets too has also given me like, I feel like a cutting edge now, like,
Well, you said this work, and many people watching and listening might not know what this work is.
Yeah. So to explain this work is a lot of different things. You know that. It's advocacy, it's education, it's research. And specifically for Away Home America, we're working through policy to transform policies to work to end and prevent youth homelessness, and that's our goal. But we're also an example of what we want the larger movement of youth homelessness, and even just outside of youth homelessness altogether, to really shift and share power to those of us with lived experience. And not just saying it, but like authentically doing it. Like I'm in this position as the CEO of a national nonprofit that's working to end and prevent youth homelessness. That's power shifting, right? And so we're asking people to do that. So that's part of it as well. It's not just policy, but it's also this labor of love that I think those of us that have lived experience do. And it's some of that you can't even put words on it to express like what we do on top of all the day-to-days.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so important because, I've been doing this for about 17 years. It's now lived experience. Back 17 years ago, it didn't have a term. I still say homeless or formerly homeless people. And now lived experience is this cool thing. And most of it, a lot of it, there's some great organizations.
Sure.
Yours is one, a
Thank
leader,
you.
right? That are really helping people who have experienced homelessness or foster care. I mean, lived experience could be mental illness. It doesn't have to be homelessness.
Right.
Into positions of power. So how it's evolved, and I hope it continues to evolve,
Absolutely.
is we have these committees. So let's run everything by these committees.
Yeah.
But that's not really giving people power.
It's not.
Right?
Yeah.
We have to go above that where you're helping them on a path, and it's if they want to, because some people aren't going to want
the willingness,
right? Like, okay, here's the path to leadership. Do you want to go to school for social work?
Right.
Do you want to go to school for nonprofit management?
Right.
Or whatever it is, accounting,
Yeah.
or whatever, and we help them with that path so that we develop leaders in position like you that's CEO.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not just going to go, oh, let's run it by the lived experience committee. No, you have people in positions of power, not just speaking truth to power,
right?
In power.
In the power,
making decisions that have lived experience.
Yeah, and I think, yes, 1,000% to all of that. I think one of the things that I've been trying to encourage people to do lately in terms of shifting and sharing power is to how, like, look at how you are doing that for yourself. So one of the biggest things for me when I got into this role was that, like, it was hard for me to find community because I didn't have a whole bunch of people I could go to for the intersections of my leadership now. It was different. And so, you know, a lot of it has been a lot of internal things that I've had to do, you know, working on like self-awareness and just like, how do I manage my emotional intelligence when now I'm faced with things that are a little different and really a lot different, right, than things I may have experienced when I was going through systems. But also now the weight of my decisions are not just CEO based. I've got to make sure that my staff is good and that I'm, you know, making my funders happy and the people I serve are honored. It's not just that. It's like, how am I showing up in a way that does open that door for other leaders to come in and be in my position, but are things that are not written on a book, right? So like, to my point about like, you've got, I mean, working on like emotional intelligence and learning that when I'm coming in certain rooms, like if I'm on a commission, I can't go into that commission and demand we've got to, you know, like I have to understand the process. And I think a lot of times we come into the place and we want to burn it down. And I love that. I love a good burn down. Let's burn it down.
I'm with you.
Let's figure out the process first so that we can figure out if burning it down is actually the right thing. And so I think that funnels into this decision-making thing, and you can only do that if you're knowledgeable about what is actually happening. I think one of the movies I appreciated when I was growing up was the movie Salt, because in that movie, she was like this, you know, I guess, like spy, not from America, and she learned everything about, you know, what was going on, and then when she learned it, she was able to infiltrate it because she took the time to learn it. And so, you know, I like in the way that I look at a lot of what I do now and how I navigate is like, let me learn it first. And then if I need to infiltrate, if that's the process, let's do it. If I need to burn it down, let's do that. But just, it'll be fitting based off of what I'm learning and what's needed for the people at large.
As homelessness grows, people are getting frustrated and they're pushing for laws that criminalize homelessness, which will only make the problem worse. Invisible People reaches more people, educating them on homelessness than all other homeless sector nonprofits and campaigns combined. But we do it on a limited budget. We don't have the funding they do. We are mostly funded by individual donations. And now that the economy is struggling, individual donations are disappearing, and we need you. I get it. You might not have the money to donate. Many people are struggling right now. Please share our content, share our videos. It really matters. And if you do have some funds and want to help be part of the solution to solve homelessness, please visit invisiblepeople.tv/donate. Our important work stops without you.
Emotional intelligence, social intelligence.
Yes.
Because often people with lived experience, me included, you know, we have been hurt by the system.
Yeah.
And we're responding from our hurt. Right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I consider myself to be really lucky, I better frame this a little different. I don't feel lucky that I was homeless.
Yeah, I feel you.
But I'm lucky that I experienced homelessness, and then I also worked as a case manager.
Yeah.
And I also worked in a shelter, and I worked as a family case manager. So I saw both sides.
The big picture.
Yeah, you will, you know, often, and it's not that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Because they're operating out of their hurt.
Right.
Those nonprofits, they're having a conference. How could they have a conference? Oh my gosh, they're just upset because they've been told no so many times.
Yeah.
And they have been given promises that have been broken.
Yeah.
And they see other people getting support and them not getting support.
Yeah.
And it internalizes, right? And then when you go and you work for a nonprofit, you're like, oh, I want to help everybody, but I can't. The resources aren't there, right? There's these rules, the bureaucracy is killing. There's these rules and bureaucracy is killing, you know, the way that I want to reach out and help people. And then you learn the other side and you say, oh my gosh.
This is why.
Yeah, I get it. They just can't go and snap their fingers and help.
The money's not infinite.
Right. So then you find balance.
Yeah.
And that, you know, is probably something because you have people in lived experience committees who are still operating out of their hurt.
Yes.
They're not necessarily operating out of, I don't know what.
Logic, reason.
Balance.
Yeah, balance
I
of
want to
that.
say wisdom, but
yeah, but it's like, I get what you're saying, because a lot of times when we, like you said, when I came to this work, I was so raw. Of course, 13-year-old Marcella, raw. I'm sure people can be like, yeah, she was raw.
Yeah.
I was, and I said whatever. And as time has gone on, I think the authenticity of the rawness still lives in me, and it still is ever present. And because of what you said, you get in these systems, and because you're behind the scenes now and you're positioned differently at the organization, you can see why a no was a no.
Right.
And you can rationalize that and understand deeper than what you understood before. So yeah, for sure. I mean,
you
I
might
get
still
that.
decide to burn it down.
Right.
If that's
but at least
the right
you know
move.
better. Yeah.
Right.
But and if you did, in that fact, want to burn it down, at least you can strategize for something else. Because a lot of times when we're ready to burn stuff down, we don't have a new thing.
Right.
We're just like, burn it because this is horrible.
Right.
Like, valid.
Right.
And once I know the behind the scenes, I can burn it down, but have something else in place to, you know what I mean?
I totally do. So I'm really, except for that little bit of schooling of college, I came up drug dealer, musician, no real formal education.
Mm-hmm.
So what hurts me is not so much what I say, but the way I say it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I what I'm saying, there's truth, but
Right.
because I say it the wrong words.
Maybe a New York way.
Exactly. I'm stepping on toes, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about the organization that you lead.
Yeah. So Away Home America was started in 2016 by a collective group of funders, researchers, people who had did direct services across, the nation in different capacities, and really wanted a space where it was really centering youth and young adults, like just completely centering youth and young adults, but in a way that was not reflective of any other space. And at the time, I was actually working with True Colors United. And so I was engaged in a lot of like the creation of Away Home America, but just in a different capacity, where I was like helping with the core principles and, function with the mission, stuff like that. And our organization, even at that point, still reflected some of the regular things. So looking inward, we're like, okay, y'all, we're saying one thing about like shifting and sharing this power, and we kind of don't have the mechanisms to reflect that in place. And that was the folks at the time saying that, like, look, it's young people that were involved in that at the time, people at the table. So we had a subcommittee, which is like the equivalent of a board of trustees at that time in 2016 and a few years after. And we were like, we got to change this. Like, it can't be where it's mostly older adults and 2 or 3, 4, young people.
Right.
It's not even a majority. So when the voting happens, who's going to win the vote most of the time. And so Away Home America invested in reconstructing what was the subcommittee at the time to a leadership board, which had 51+% young people with lived experience. So now the power is in the hands of those with lived experience. And I was the first founding 8, me and 7 other young people with lived experience, to be the board, function as the board. And at the time, my predecessor, Megan Gibbert Klein, she was doing a fantastic job, doing the best she could. I mean, when you come up with new stuff, I think people are always like, that's not right. And it's like, oh, we're just starting. Can you give it a break? Like, relax.
For those listening, I'm raising my hand.
Give folks a break. Like, you have to build things. Nothing is built overnight. None of us are microwaves. I can't pop popcorn like that and it's just perfect. That's not how things work.
I'm still in that line.
Yeah, you can have it right here on this podcast. You can have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we reconstituted our subcommittee to be a leadership board comprising of a majority youth and young adults. And then at the time, there was just so much going on with the work that we were doing to ensure that the HUD definition around this United States was reflective of quality data. We knew that the HUD definition was not inclusive of the young people we know are couch surfing.
Flawed.
Yeah, it's flawed. And so we're like, we may not be able to change that, but what we can do is go into 10 different communities and work with them to make their data reflective, and then go into the communities as we're obtaining the numbers of young people who are actively experiencing homelessness based on what we know that young people are telling us.
Right.
And so that work was happening, and good work. I mean, so much came out of that. So much of what we're doing now, not just at Away Home America, but in the youth homelessness movement, was really guided by what Away Home America was doing at that time, and all of our partners together. And so that was happening. And then, Megan was like, I think we need to do more. This is still not 100% reflective of shifting and sharing power, right? We've got a board, but we need to do more. And so she's like, I'm going to do my thing. And I was like, well, shoot. This is an opportunity, like I'll, take it. So myself and another young person, Amanda Clifford, shout out to her. I appreciate her for everything that she's done for Away Home America when she first was on. And she was one of the founding 8 members with me as well. So shout out to her. We became co-directors at Away Home America, 2 young people from 2 different youth-serving systems coming as a powerhouse and just making this work. And we pulled the advocacy and policy piece to the forefront, but also shifting and sharing power, as well as youth compensation and equity around that. There's just so many things coming out of the organization. So not only do we have the board reflective of this 51+% young people with lived experience, but now we've got 2 young people at the helm of the organization. And then from that point, Amanda left and had her little girl and, did things that were important for her. And I stayed and have been there. And this is my 6th year now, navigating. So we've got a lot going on. We've got 9 overall policy recommendations that are guided by young people and other leaders in the movement. But we've got 2 pieces of legislation that have been introduced, one that will be reintroduced, and we're continuing to go along. And this is on the federal level, but in state and local communities, specifically North Carolina, California, LA specifically, and Texas, we're working with them to organize and build power within those communities to then take, policy agendas, same as what we're doing on the federal level, and invest in transformative policies that help our young people.
I love you guys, and I love how supportive you are of our work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I first met you, I think, a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some online interaction, but in person, and I think you're a digital person at the time, and you guys were just so awesome,
Thank you.
Complimenting our work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially what we're doing right now with our video newsreels.
Yeah.
Where we're taking Gen Z hosts.
Yeah.
And doing 3 a week because that's all we can afford right now to
Yeah.
reach young adults.
Yeah.
Because like attracts like. They don't want to hear from
Yeah.
some old white guy, right?
Yeah.
They want, and if you're going to, and youth reach their parents and youth reach other youth.
Yep.
So I've always felt we should target the right-wing Prager University is in a massive way.
Yep.
So this is what I could do and what I could afford. And you guys were so supportive of that.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I think the other thing in this work is there's so much competition and it's so unnecessary. And my thing is if we're doing things that are ultimately helping my group, let's just do it, you know? And so that support your work, the authenticity, this openness to really allow young people to step in and speak on our own behalves, I think, I'm with that. I'm not going to play behind it. I love it. Yeah.
Let's talk about youth homelessness.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
So has it changed in the last 5 or 10 years? Is it going in a certain direction? What's happening?
This question is a really good question. And what I'll say is that I think there are some things in the last 5 to 10 years that have remained the same, right? Because it's like sludge sometimes, especially with the legislation, policy pieces, that's sludge, or molasses, it moves slow. And it's a long haul, a very big investment over time. So a lot of that is really difficult. But, myself, other organizations like Youth Collaboratory, National Network for Youth, I mean, we've made these strides to continue to hold on to the things that we have that we know work for our young people and serve our young people, right? But again, this is policy stuff and it's sledge and it moves slow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I will say that there have been a lot more progressive pieces in terms of like even me just being in my role and other young people being in their roles of power that are popping up all around, right? And people being exposed to this and seeing that it works. Because me being here in my role for the last 6 years is a representation that young people with lived experience can do this. Like, and I'm not going to lie to anybody. This has been like a crazy, steep learning curve for me. But the fact that I've done it, it's less about Marcella and more about the concept of us being able to do this. And so things, like that are happening that's skyrocketing up. We're not having the same conversations that we've had years ago. We're progressing these conversations as things are going on and new things are emerging in our work. And so I would say in regards to that, like the shifting and sharing power, YABs, young people taking positions on COCs. I mean, like powerful positions on COCs. Yeah, this is stuff that's happening across the nation. And I'll always give honor I'll always give honor to the organizations across the nation that don't have this big abundance of like advertised, hey, they're doing this for young people, but because I'm meeting with them and they're talking to me about their programs and how many young people it's actively helping, those are the things that are like, it's like, stuff's working, and there's a lot of gaps. So it's such a complex answer in terms of like what's changed, right? There's a lot of things that are slow to change. And I know that we're going to keep chugging along. We're not going to give up. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We're going to keep going, even in regards to these policy pieces, whether they're on the federal level or state and local level, we're going to keep chugging along. But, in respective states, there's so much beauty in what people are doing for their young people. And I'm talking about like bending over backwards to shift funding pots for how they are supporting young people and getting housing and how they're trying to fill these gaps. So
that's been a big shift, permanent supportive housing for young people.
Yeah.
But homeless youth, is it growing? Is it, from my understanding, the two demographics that are growing are seniors and young adults.
And young adults, yeah. I mean, right now, our young people are coming into a space where me having a job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, still's not cutting it. And I'm trying to go to school on top of all 3 of these jobs.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And it's still not cutting it.
Right.
And this is even in rural areas.
Right.
Not just urban areas or more, populated areas.
I assume it's harder in rural areas.
Of course, because transportation. I mean, we could, all of us, not even just right here talking, but I'm sure, folks that are watching could say, here's a laundry list of why young people in rural areas are unable to take care of themselves. And the crazy thing that I see a lot of times is that people are like, well, they're just lazy. Baby, no. If you get around these young people, they're not like, I just want to sit on my butt. No, they want to go thrive.
Yeah.
They just don't have what they need to do that. And so we're at a really, pivotal moment where a lot of the youth homelessness is increasing. And you might see, oh, well, it's not that bad. Again, the HUD definition didn't change. So what they're obtaining in terms of young people that are experiencing homelessness.
They exclude a lot.
They exclude a lot. So you've got young people who are, maybe they're housed, but they're in a domestic violence situation. And, stuff like that is just not being captured in the way that it should be. So, this is an issue that we want to get better. And we know that there's so many things that are stacked against our young people right now.
Crazy. I didn't expect to talk about this, but I have a soft spot in my heart for youth travelers.
Oh, yeah.
And many of them find community. They hop trains. Mm-hmm. It's hard to support them because they're only there for a moment. Mm-hmm. Like you can offer a shower or whatever. Most of them have, suffered trauma and abuse at such young ages. One thing that's never been studied, I haven't talked about this in years, so maybe it has, but I doubt it. Like you say, sludge is moving slow, right? Is, they're out hopping trains, doing whatever, And there's nutrition issues growing up. There's the social aspect. Like when they become 30 or 40, they don't have the resume to go get a job.
Exactly.
So they end up being chronic homeless adults.
That's what I keep telling people.
And they don't, it's like, this is just common.
People are not putting the pieces together, and it's right here in our faces.
Right. If you help, and probably, I don't want to segment out just youth travelers.
Yeah.
And for those listening and watching, the youth travelers almost have like a uniform. They're like wearing brown clothes. They have pit bulls, a ukulele. You know what I mean? You almost think it's like fun, but if you look behind the curtain, you see layers of abuse and trauma, and they found community. But when they grow older, they're still going to be homeless adult travelers or chronic homeless. And I think that happens to probably all segments of youth. It's not just the travelers.
It's all segments of young people. And that, this is one of the biggest things. I'm like, if we are not investing in these preventative measures, we're only contributing to older adult homelessness.
Right.
So we have to focus. And I'm not saying, don't focus on anybody. We can walk and chew at the same time, right? Yeah. So we can do all of this, but we have to focus on these young people as well, because we'll contribute. They're going to funnel right there. So I agree with that 1,000%. And, I think, again, it's like when you think about it, I want people to challenge themselves about homelessness and how people get there, because I think there's so many preconceived notions about why people get there. For me, I was in college. I did everything right, like they told me to. Marcella stopped the fight, and I'm like, okay, I'm not fighting no more. They're like, you got to focus in school. I'm focusing in school. Go to college. I'm in college. I'm doing what I need to do. And because my foster mom at the time wasn't getting paid anymore, now I had to go live in my car because I don't have anywhere else to go. So that wasn't me saying, where's the paper for me to sign up? I kind of want to be homeless. Is there a paper for me to sign up? Like it, a lot of times it's not like that. And people are like, well, you want to experience homelessness because you don't want to listen to your parents. And it's just all these preconceived notions about how our young people end up in these systems. And it's not what they think it is.
A huge percentage of homeless youth are not runaways.
Yes.
They're throwaways.
Yes.
Parents don't even report them as missing because they threw them out. And I'm not talking about, oh, you're 18, go get a job.
Right.
The person I'm talking to is 18 at the time because legally, and I think this is a good thing, you cannot interview someone below 18 without parental consent.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm fine. But I've met several people, and this one in particular, talking about how his home life was so abusive. At 5 years old, he went to go sleep in the car in the driveway. At 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you're sleeping? This is a community that's in poverty, and all of a sudden you're out on the streets at weird hours. You start hanging out, you develop community, and the next thing you know, you're going down a path that is destructive in many ways. And so many. The other one, oh my gosh, and I didn't even think about bringing all this stuff up. I've met people that the first time they injected drugs was with their parents.
Yeah. I have some friends like that too. Getting them and stripping and all that.
The one, his name is Perry. We briefly interviewed him in a street medicine documentary. Perry's probably 50 years old now. Hard to tell. Streets, can age you quicker.
Yeah.
Right? And when Perry was 12 years old, he got a cold. And his mom was a heroin addict. Heroin made her feel better. So when Perry got a cold, she wanted him to feel better.
Right.
So she shot him up with heroin at 12 years old.
Wow.
So people say, oh, drugs is a choice. Did Perry ever have a choice?
Perry have a choice?
Right. He's been a drug addict ever since.
Yeah.
And if you go behind the scenes and look at the mom's history, because it's easy to judge her,
right?
But if you look at it, probably something similar,
right?
That got her on the path of using drugs.
Yeah.
And it's very much poverty, addiction, generational, and we have to break that.
And we have to break it. And I think the way we break it is by discontinuing these thoughts about why people are there and just have empathy that we all deserve a place to stay. And one thing about life, when I'm talking to my young people, shout out to them, they're amazing. When I'm talking to them, I'm like, things that happened to us was not fair. It was not fair. And what I'm about to say is not fair.
Right.
But we're responsible for trying to help ourselves, which sucks, and I hate having to do that. Yeah. But it's a piece that supports that willingness to come and say, okay, like, how do I take control over my own choices and start making decisions that benefit me best? Right. Where can I start doing that little by little?
Right.
Oh, it's hard because, again, like in the example you gave about Perry, like, he didn't ask for that. Yeah. But the world is not going to be like, did you ask for that or not? They're just going to be stuck that Perry is just a drug addict. He wants to be out on the streets, and this is his choice. And it's like, he didn't choose that. And this is drugs we're talking about. This is not like somebody gave you a box of crayons. And no, this is drugs we're talking about.
Right.
And anybody that understands addiction, if you don't understand addiction, I challenge you to learn more about addiction so that you can have the right empathy for someone like Perry, because there's a million Perrys out there. They didn't choose the lifestyle that they're in. They didn't choose the parents they got. They didn't choose the community they lived in. All that was pre-made and handed to them.
Yeah.
And so, and honestly, too, people are like, how did you do it, Marcella? And I'm like, let me just start by telling you that I am not like the larger majority of what young people do. So please don't even listen to what I'm saying and try to apply that to other young people. Like, it's not anything, I wouldn't even say how I saw my life was anything like special or better than anybody else. It was just things that I was exposed to by no choice of my own. Right. Just like other people were, right? Like, so there's things, we're all exposed to different things. So I can't really pinpoint one exact thing. I think there's a multitude of things that I was exposed to that were bad things and were good things. And I always looked at it like, I'd rather just look at what my mom went through and try to do better, because she went through a lot at no fault of her own as well. Like, just things that she was just given. And I'm like, I'm not going to judge her. I haven't been where she's been in life. I haven't, experienced what she experienced. But I'm also not going to like spend my life being mad at her about it, because there's nothing she can do to change it.
Right.
You got to just move on.
How I try to explain to people, and I got to get better at this. This is something that I wish I had the time to explore.
Yeah.
But we have to love on people until they can love themselves.
Yeah.
So we'll continue with Perry. Mm-hmm. So he never had a chance to have a normal childhood. Mm-hmm. So he has low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Has, probably low emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
You can go across the board. So just saying, oh, he can make a decision and go get a job and his life is, that's not practical or realistic.
Right.
But we could love on Perry until he was able to rebuild his self-esteem, his dignity, his self-worth, learn emotional intelligence so that he can be self-sufficient.
Right.
And I'll bring myself into it is, if you saw me on Hollywood Boulevard walking down the street with a mohawk and a 6-foot iguana, you would have crossed the street. That guy is crazy, right? I was gone. I mean, LAPD called me the lizard man of Hollywood Boulevard.
The lizard
right?
Man
I was
crazy.
lizard man, right? And I was gone. I was the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And I didn't go from Hollywood Boulevard homeless to where I am today just by snapping a finger. And I think this is dangerous. And I get why it happens. You'll see on the news or media or story, from homeless to Harvard,
Yeah.
And they
I
don't
hate
talk
when they
about
do that. The
when
middle part.
They don't talk about the help.
Yes.
Nobody went from homeless
To
Harvard
Harvard.
University
Yes.
without people helping them.
Helping,
And
yeah.
that's where we need to be.
Yes.
We need to be the people helping
That's right.
Perry, Mark Horvath,
Yeah.
or whoever,
Yeah.
so that they can become self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Thinking that you can snap a finger, they make a choice,
Right.
and boom, they go get a job at McDonald's or Walmart greeter,
Right, and they're fine.
They're like they can hardly even like pay rent, or I'm trying to combine too much into that one.
No, but it's real.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's real. And I can appreciate what you're saying too about showing people love, because what I find is that people lack the same empathy for others that they lack for themselves. And so typically that's where people are coming from, is like, I don't have empathy for you because I don't really have empathy for myself, because I don't want to go to this job either. I don't want to pay these bills either, but I don't want to say that out loud because then if I say that out loud, then something must be wrong with me because I think something's wrong with you. Right. And they're not willing to explore. And I think one of the things, as I've been at this NAEH conference that I explained to people was, if you really want to open the doors to shifting and sharing power, you need to check on how you're treating yourself. If you are treating yourself with kindness and love, then it'll be easy to extend that to others. Because I love myself. So when I go out, I give all kind of compliments. I'm like, look at you. You're amazing today. And I mean it from the depths of my soul, because that's how I feel about myself. So when you feel like that about yourself, you can do that. And I think, I met this one gentleman. He's so profound. At this training in Mississippi. It was so nice. Also, I love Jackson, Mississippi, too. And people are like, why, Marcella? Another story for another day, but I love it. And nonetheless, when I was there, we were trying to explain to people how to pull out of themselves this sense of love for self when you don't have anything around you. And the reason why we were able to resonate so much on that was because I was in foster care and I didn't hear I love you at one point for like 7 years in a row. Right. And he had been in prison. And so we were like, we know what it's like to have to muster up your own stuff when you don't have. And again, I want to be clear that me sharing this is not to say that this is what this is not a prescription you can give to people, because it doesn't work like that for everyone. And the majority, we know it does not work like that. Yeah. But my goal in sharing it is to encourage people to just muster up love for self first. Please just do that. And then you can offer that to other people who are in unfortunate situations. And also, somebody said the best thing, the people you see on your way up are the same people you're going to see on your way down. So be quiet about how you talk about these homeless people, because, baby, it can be you, especially with things that are going on now. A lot of people are like, oh, not me. Yeah, Bookie, you. Look at you now. Like, the pandemic did the same thing to people. Snooty, looking down at others. And now you are my Uber driver. And I love Uber drivers. Shout out to them. Yeah. But the way you looked at folks, you were unkind. Yeah. And you had a disgusting way that you came from for other people that you felt like were beneath you or less fortunate. And now you're having to do the same thing that you thought was beneath you because the pandemic humbled you. Yeah. So, it's just, we got to learn how to check ourselves, and also outside of just check yourself, love yourself so you can love others too.
I feel sorry for Alex because she's going to have so much to pick from for the trailers, because that whole piece right there was the trailer. How do people find you, your website? They want to support you or learn more?
Yes, if you want to support what we're doing in totality, as well as the young people that we're serving, we are at awayhomeamerica.org. We are on Instagram at The Real Away Home America. We are on Facebook, The Real Away Home America, and all other socials, The Real Away Home America. And also all of our information is there as well. So if people are like, hey, how do I do this in regards to policy or shifting and sharing power, anything in regards to this work in terms of young people, we don't just work on homelessness. It's all youth serving systems, because so many young people are coming out of these systems, whether it be mental health, juvenile justice, domestic violence, you name it, and they're ending up in homelessness.
We could do 3-4 more podcasts on each one of these.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we didn't even touch criminal justice. And, oh my gosh.
All of those things. It's just, it's so rough.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for spending time.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mark. I appreciate this.
Hopefully you had some fun.
I did. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This is good.